Great. So, hi everybody. Thank you very much for coming. For those of you that haven't met yet, my name is Jacob Johnson. I'm the head coach of BAC. This is my second year as the head coach. I've been with BAC. This is my 25th year with BAC. And as you'll see, one of the things we're going to kind of hit on this presentation is that it is our 25th year overall, which means I've been with BAC since the beginning in the fall of 1999. Try to get through this as quickly as possible. Thank you for logging into this or watching this asynchronously. If y'all could keep yourselves muted, that would be awesome. I'm running this solo, so I'm trying to do everything all at once. So hopefully keep yourself muted, and then we'll be good to go. So we'll follow along on this. You can also view the PDFs if you would like on the website under the emails and docs tab. I'm also going to have this video posted there as well. Great. We're going to do this a little bit reverse from the way we did the other one. The in-person meeting, we did the new parent meeting first, then the all-parent stuff. We'll kind of do it the reverse here. So we'll do the things we wanted to hit for everybody, and then we'll do a little bit more extensive tour for the new parent one. A lot of that is good information for everybody, but especially the end stuff will be a little bit more involved tour of the website. So if you are an experienced parent, you want to hop off at that point because you feel like you know your way around the web, that's fine. All right, I'm going to share the screen here. We'll do the all-parent meeting. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Sorry about that. Smooth so far, right? All right. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat, but I probably won't get to them at the end just because I'm just kind of moving on it solo. So, all right. So all-parent meeting, thank you. Hold on, let me move some of these because they're in the way of the recording, the little bar and such. Put that down in the corner. Great. All right. So thank you all for coming and thank you all for jumping in on this. We're talking a little about, this is the main stuff. We're going to talk about BAC basics, club structures. Obviously, some of this stuff we're going to skip for the Zoom version versus the in-person. So no board and coach introductions, no tier representative, no Shane, that kind of thing. So we'll get through it. So we were, for those of you who aren't aware, we were formed in 1999. There were three kind of major clubs in the Madison area that combined forces to kind of just be a larger club for a bunch of reasons that, admin and stuff. Like USA Swimming the last 25 years has been trending towards larger clubs just being a more successful model. So we were kind of at the forefront of that. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. One of our kind of internal mottos or mantras, I guess, would be athlete-centered, board-driven, and coach-run. We're a member of USA Swimming, obviously, and we're a member of the Wisconsin LSC. You might see that sometimes. LSC stands for Local Swim Committee. There are about 60 of them in the United States. They are around the Midwest. They're pretty state-centric. Like we're in the Wisconsin one. There's a Minnesota one. There's an Iowa one. Other parts of the country, like Texas, has 6 and California has 8, right? Interestingly enough, or maybe you don't find it interesting, but I do, Wisconsin LSC is not just Wisconsin. It's got a lot of the UP, and then it also has actually several, whoever is not muted, if you could mute, that would be great. Several counties that are closest to the Twin Cities are actually not part of the Wisconsin LSC. So there we go. All right, going through and muting folks. All right. We have a parent board. They did introduce themselves. There's also, when we get to the website tour, there's a coaches and boards button that has bios and kind of information on the coaching staff and on the board. They're an important part of our structure. We have full-time staff. I'm obviously the head coach. Sherry Neeson is our business manager, who's been with the club almost as long as I have, just a year or two less. And have been in that role for a very long time. We have 3 other full-time coaches, Chris, Jay, and Derek. You'll get a lot of different information from them throughout the year as they take point on different things. For our part-time staff, we sort of have Jill listed separate. She is the head coach for our Baraboo site, and that's really important to us. Every group has a lead coach. You should have gotten emails from them already. With just sort of, they're the ones the point person for each group to reach out to. And we do have other coaches in leadership roles. Like the example I gave is EJ does a lot of our volunteer stuff. So you'll get emails from him when that stuff starts to roll around. Let's see. Oh, here is our coaching staff, and we might have a couple more to add to this at some point. But as you can see, we did not do a very extensive introduction of all these people. There were about 20 some coaches at the meeting on Sunday. They all just gave a quick introduction so people could find out who they are. It is an awesome mix of coaches. It is an awesome mix of many of us that have been with the club for 20 years or longer, many of us that have been coaching for 20 years or longer, many of us that have extensive coaching here with BAC or extensive experience in the Madison area. The flip side, we have a lot of younger coaches that just have their own strengths and that they connect with the kids in a different way, right? They're closer to their generation. We have a bunch of coaches that are new this year. We have coaches that swam at major, D1 college programs. We have coaches that swam at more, let's just say, obscure, smaller programs like D3 programs, stuff like that. We have coaches that have been doing this for a really long time, coaches that are new, everything. The analogy that I use for our coaching staff is it's sort of like a large elementary school where your swimmer is going to have obviously their classroom teacher and maybe a helper or two that are in there a lot that they'll get to know very, very well through the course of the year. They'll have maybe the music teacher and some other teachers in the school that they'll see frequently, but not as frequently. And then honestly, there's some staff in the school that your kid might go the entire year without having a significant interaction with. And I think that's just fine, right? It works well for a school and it works well for our team. So your kid's going to get to know some of the coaching staff super well. Other coaches, they'll know a little bit, and some they won't know at all, and that's fine. Michael Galindo is one of our tier representatives. This was something new for us. We have been affiliated with a different outfitting company throughout our 25-year history, and this is something new for us. This is something we identified as wanting to take a look at over the course of the summer, and we spent a lot of hours looking into different offers from different company, and we are super excited that we settled on our offer with Tier. We were super excited for it at the beginning. We are super excited for all the gear we've gotten so far. We started delivering the new Tier silicone caps to everybody this week at practice. Mike was able to bring a lot of tech suits and other jackets and just all sorts of gear that we can get to sort of a touch and feel kind of expo thing. So he was there and that was fantastic. Also had Shane and his wife Jenny, the owners of Simply Swimming. I cannot sing Simply Swimming's praises enough. We knew that they were a really unique resource for us going into the last year or so. Like I knew that before I was the head coach and CEO, and it has just been underscored incredibly this year, especially as we searched for a new apparel partner, right? Shane was instrumental in not favoring one or the other, but just, telling me maybe what to look for, what to ask for, what to ask about, all of that. But in having those talks with the apparel companies, we realized that the combination of what Simply Swimming can do in terms of having a large brick and mortar store in our area and having the online presence that they do and just the volume that they push and all the customization that they do in-house they're not one of a kind nationally, but they are on a short list of places that do all of those things in one-stop shop, right? Talking to other coaches around the state and around the country, it has made me really realize how special they are. Hopefully you all took care of getting your team suit and team shirt ordered. If not, you're going to get a toned email from me later today to get that straightened out as soon as possible. But if you haven't been in there, Simply Swimming is great. Check them out. The fall clothing deadline, we can pass that. So website tour, like I said, we will do a more extensive tour, actually walking through the website, especially beneficial for new parents sort of at the end of this. But the big notes here, Team Unify is like anything else, right? It's like any of these other programs that we use that are, it's the best version available, but it is imperfect, right? It is flawed. There are some things about it that are hard to understand or hard to get used to, maybe not as intuitive as we'd like, maybe a little confusing, some of the updates and stuff like that. But generally it's pretty good. And what its strength is that it does kind of everything all at once for us, right? So we use the Team Unify website for a practice calendar. If you haven't noticed, the practice calendar, it's more of a Google calendar that we have linked to it. That is what you want to use for every week to capture all the changes rather than let's say the static PDFs that were posted at the beginning of the year under the Madison tab or the Sauk or the Baraboo tab. We use it for billing. We use it for all sorts of communication. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We use it for entering meets and doing all of that stuff. We use it for checking results. And we will talk more about how to enter meets, especially for those of you that are new as we get to the end of the session. Again, if you came in late, if you got questions, you can hold them to the end. You can put them in the chat if you want, but I'm just going to power through this PowerPoint as much as we can. And so we'll have time for questions at the end. All right, let's see here. Oh, let me get to the next screen. Perfect. So communication. Hopefully we've stressed this a lot we've intended to, at least. We intend to stress this a lot in kind of the logistics emails from the first couple of weeks, but we believe that communication is absolutely essential for a good club operation, right? We would rather have we get a significant volume of emails, as we should. Well, I'd rather have a lot more of them, and I'd rather have a certain percentage of those be stuff you could have found on your own if you'd have looked a little harder, or quote unquote bad questions or whatever. We'd rather have all of those than to have something important go unanswered or unbrought up, or something that a parent or a group of parents is not sure about. Often when we get a question from a parent or two, it means that there's 5 or 6 with that point out there. So we try to proactively communicate that stuff as well as we can. Types of communication, you'll get different emails. Obviously, we've gotten a bunch of team-wide emails so far. Anytime we have something that's of real substance that isn't just like a quick reminder, like for example the reminder where we sent this Zoom link, we didn't post that under emails and docs, but anything that's a little bit more substantive, a little bit longer, we post under the emails and docs tab. You'll get group specific emails. Hopefully you've gotten some of those already. Those are going to be from your lead coach, and those are going to be information for your swimmer or swimmers groups specifically. We'll also send meet reminder emails. Those usually, so when we get to the meet section, you'll see that if you'd like to, you can actually sign out for meets once they're posted, or you can sign up for meets right away. But usually what we do is we often have our meet deadline on a Thursday. So what we'll often do is earlier in that week, maybe on Monday, we'll send a reminder to just everybody that isn't signed up and say, hey, just if you didn't know, the meet deadline is this Thursday. And then maybe Thursday morning, we'll send something to everyone that hasn't declared one way or the other and say, hey, last chance to sign up is tonight. Make sure you email coach with any questions. They'll be that quick and that small. If you want to religiously sign out of meets you aren't going to attend to avoid getting those, that's great. If you don't mind the extra email or two, you don't have to. And one of the communications is our expectation for our coaches, salary, hourly, everybody, lead coaches, helper coaches, whatever else, whatever position you want, is that they're there 15 minutes before practice and they're there 15 minutes after the end of practice. The idea with that is that they are there to get to know the kids, to chat with each other, chat with the kids, to chat with each other, to plan practice, to get to know the kids, all those different things. But also that is a great time for you to come up and ask them questions or put faces to names. A lot of our younger groups, there are a decent amount of parents that hang out during practice. A lot of our older groups are in some locations that just isn't an option. So it really kind of depends, but you can always pop in and chat with them. Highlighted there, it says communication is a two-way street. We want to hear from you. So like I said, we'd rather hear about a bunch of information from you than have it go uncommunicated. All right. Let's see here. Oh, working together for success. We had a little bit of a, I guess, one-page kind of essay that sort of outlined this sentiment, but we wanted to explain it as well in person. So a sort of a slogan that was out there for a long time, promoted by USA Swimming for successful clubs, was that swimmers swim, parents parent, and coaches coach. That isn't meant to, as a passive aggressive, stay out of our lane, or, we don't want to hear from you kind of thing. And I think that's why they stopped using it, is because if you don't have that explainer behind it, people can kind of take it the wrong way. But I think it is a good delineation of our different roles, right? That we all have a super important role in the athlete having success in the sport. We'll talk about what success means later. We all have that role, and it's important to know like the areas we can best help that athlete succeed, right? And by extension, having back succeed. So swimmers, obviously, they, you could argue have the biggest role. They need to show up. They need to put in the work. At some point, that really becomes a lot of effort, but it's also, especially for younger swimmers, a lot of focus, right? The stuff we've been doing these first couple of weeks, I wouldn't be surprised if your swimmer has come home and hasn't been all that worn out, right? We haven't been like working them so hard always, but hopefully they've been really attentive to some of the details that we've been trying to stress these couple of weeks. So that's the swimmer's role, right? They got to show up, they got to put in the work. Our coaches are fabulous, right? I touted our coaching staff and our varied experience and all the different things we've done. We have several coaches that have been, award-winning, coach of the year winners or coach of the year nominees or zone staff selections or just all of the different kind of uh, accolades and kudos you can kind of get. Our staff has. Our coaches are great at teaching. They're great at energizing. They counsel kids. They motivate kids. They do everything. They lead. They're the jack of all trades, so to speak, right? So that's sort of their role. Parents, you're the ultimate support for the athlete and for BAC. We can't do this without you, quite literally, right? Like, you get the kids to practice. You guys are essential. We'll talk about volunteering and parent different ways parents can help a little bit later, but all of that is super important. And just to be perfectly crass and honest, like, you guys pay the bills, right? If you guys didn't pay for swim team to exist, we couldn't rent a pool or have a staff or do anything. One thing I like to sort of say to kind of delineate the roles between coaches and parents, and I think hopefully you'll agree that it talks about the importance of parents, is that our coaches are experts at swimming. We are experts not only at swimming in a most general sense, but we're also experts, especially in explaining to the different levels and abilities and ages of the kids that we coach how to get better at swimming, right? It's not always the most talented swimmer in the world that becomes the most talented coach. You see that in any sport. Our coaches are great at getting kids motivated and excited to swim and getting them better at swimming. You all are the most expert at your kids, right? You know your kids in a different way than we ever are going to. You have more interaction with your kid in a week than we're going to have all season. We would be foolish to disregard all that knowledge and all that input. So if you have anything about your kid that you think would be helpful for us to coach them better, we want to hear it. So parents helping BAC, the most important and common way that you support BAC is meet volunteers. We will have a longer sort of, again, like, if you've noticed, a lot of these team-wide emails are broken out into sort of one-page PDFs that fit on just a single page, and they get posted under emails and docs. We'll have one just sort of outlining and reminding about what the expectations for meets are. But generally, if you have a swimmer in a session at a meet, we would need you to volunteer at that session. Often, if you have, say, swimmers in 2 sessions of the Spooktacular coming up, if it's a big meet for us, we maybe only need you to volunteer 1 shift, maybe 2. We'll see. We do have some meets that work a little different. The single age state meet is a meet that we host that we're probably going to ask for and require some volunteering outside of the kids that are participating, because instead of 250, 300 kids, we're probably going to more have like 75, 80, maybe 100, 110, somewhere in that range. So we need a little help from a wider circle. We also have, and I wasn't able to hype this up at the parent meeting, and so I'm not going to hype it up to you guys yet. I'm just still going to refer to it as a super secret meet that we're going to hopefully add to the schedule. The latest prediction was 99% chance that it's going to happen the way we plan it to, but that's coming up in January. So it's going to be a cool meet opportunity that we'll need some sort of different parental support for. Ben Radloff is one of our officials, and he is also a board member and past president. He's been active with BAC almost as long as I have, 23, 24 years. He was at the parent meeting on Sunday and was hyping up the idea of becoming an official. Officiating is the best seat in the house. It's a great way to get back to the sport. It's less, I mean, I would find that, I don't want to put down timing, but like the most common thing the parents do at meets is timing, and it can be kind of dull, right? Kind of repetitive. Officiating is much more of like a community within the swim community, right? And a little bit more of an exciting activity to do. We'll have more information on that. And in fact, one of our parent socials this year is going to be for current and prospective officials to kind of talk about the roles they might play. We'll have more on this subcommittee idea, but I would love to get a few parents that are passionate about a few small isolated areas to help us with a couple things. So, for example, I think we run fantastic meets, and we have a big staff that with a lot of experience, we run great meets. But our coaching staff always sees those meets through the perspective of the people running it or the people coaching it. We never get to see it from a parental perspective. We would love to have a committee of 8, 10 parents that meets after a meet and talks about what they thought went well from a parent perspective and what they thought could be improved. We would love to get that input from you. We would love to have a core group of parents that's excited about planning some events for us. Maybe our swimathon fundraiser, maybe a more formal dinner to celebrate our 25th anniversary this year. Maybe just some like, during a practice some night, there's a social at the bar or the restaurant down the street, right? Whatever these parents are, whatever y'all might be interested in planning, we'd love to have you help out. So you'll get some more information on that. Derek spoke about fundraising and events. We do have a plan to raise $25,000 for our 25th year through kind of some different events and some different fundraising. Some of that might come from business sponsorships. So if you have any interest there, some of that might come from things like share nights. With all this stuff, it's all just pretty low key. Like a share night, for example, at Culver's. We're not going to be thumping and yelling that like everybody's got to get to Culver's that Thursday night. It's more of, hey, you're going to go to Culver's sometimes before or after practice anyway. So, hey, maybe try to go on Thursday when we get 10% of the profits, right? Or whatever it might be. And again, we'll have more details on that. I don't want to necessarily talk about everything that Derek talked about because he'll send some follow-up emails. Here's the slide where Derek talked. So yeah, we'll talk about some of that. One of the things I do want to do is get some more parent social events. I don't even really care if they're fundraisers. I would really like to get you all interacting, right? Your kids are going to get to know each other pretty well at practice. We would like you to get to know each other as well. One, I think it makes for just a better experience for everybody. But selfishly, if you really like the people that your kid is swimming with, I think you're more likely to stay in the sport than if you don't have any, like parent friends in the sport. So that's something that we selfishly want you to do for our own benefit, but I think it'll be good for everybody. All right, so MAP and Safe Sport. MAP stands for Minor Athlete Abuse and Prevention Policy. This is something adopted by all U.S. Olympic sports, including USA Swimming. This is a top-down mandated thing, but it is not at all like a bothersome thing, and it's not at all like, oh, here comes another regulation. Most of it is very common sense. This is very much stuff that most clubs, BAC in particular, were doing already. We were actually very much on the forefront of this. In the early 2000s, our entire staff signed sort of a precursor thing for this about sort of the guidelines and the steps to making sure athletes are well taken care of in our sport. And that was something that, really nobody else was doing at the time. The examples of this sort of thing, some of the main ones are, and again, like I said, this is stuff we've already done and stuff that's just, at least in my opinion, just pretty common sense. Physical interactions with kids, in-person interactions between a coach and a kid should be interruptible and observable, right? We don't really have an office really in any of our pools, but like we shouldn't have a coach pulling a kid out to a hallway one-on-one to talk to them, or pulling them into an office type space one-on-one to talk to them. That's a situation we want to avoid. That's not taking good care of our athletes or our coaches for that matter. A lot of the MAP stuff, because we don't have an office space in the same way the other stuff, a lot of the MAP stuff that affects BAC is electronic communication. Our coaches shouldn't be social media friends with minor athletes on the team, right? Our coaches shouldn't be electronically communicating with minor athletes on the team when those communications don't include another adult, right? One of the things we preach when we talk about our club philosophy is we really like to have kids take ownership of the sport. That means different things at different ages. Little batters, that maybe just means bringing your own backpack in from the car and sitting down with mom or dad while you pick events. But by the time they're seniors, right, they should be reaching out to Chris and senior level athletes. They should be reaching out to our coaching staff and saying, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be, I got an appointment on Monday. I'll be missing practice, right? Anytime that your kid sends something to one of our coaches, we would love to have them include the parent, because then we can just reply all to them and include another adult on that. Safe sport recognition. You already got an email from Rachel on this. We had a class last week, a week ago right now, actually. We would like to become safe sport certified. We don't get anything from it, but it's just a recognition that we are, in fact, taking these sorts of things seriously. So we'd like that just sort of as a feather in our cap and a little bit of a check mark of a box. Rachel's going to take point on that. One of the things we need is parents to take this safe sport class so that a certain percentage of our parents understand what the goals of MAP and safe sport are. So you'll be getting more updates on that because there's classes you can take about once a month. Obviously, we take this stuff very seriously. If you ever have a question or a concern about anything like this, about how something you saw or heard about, or how your child was treated, or how another child, anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, to the lead coach for your group, to another coach, to a board member. It depends on what the situation is and who you'd like to talk to. Anybody's available. Brian Johnson is our board president. If you missed that on the early slide, he's available as well, and contact information for them is on our website. Back for the Future. This is cool. It's a cool graphic. This is our 25th year. This is a theme for our dry side of the season, right? We're celebrating our first 25 years, and we're looking ahead to 25 more. The parent shirt that you had a chance to order for this year's clothing order was this Back for the Future shirt. Our Swimathon fundraiser is going to kind of have this theme. Some of our parent social events that we'd like to plan are going to have this theme. One of the things that maybe you can't see it if you're watching this recording, because my bar might be in the way down here, but the bottom bullet point says an overhaul of our mission and our value statements. To be perfectly honest, we have a mission statement, but I don't think we've had it prominently displayed on our website for a number of years, and it's gotten pretty stale. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just in need of a revamp. I don't know that we've ever had we've had certainly values and things we've talked about internally amongst our coaching staff in our meetings, but I don't know that we've ever had like a published value statement. These are things that we want to kind of redevelop, reinvent for this season. Circling back to parents helping, this is an area where we're going to want some help from you. You're going to get, maybe tonight, but probably tomorrow, a follow-up email. Everybody is going to get this with a survey that you can take that gives us a little bit more information on this meeting and how to make this as productive as possible. Gives a little bit of a chance for you to indicate if you'd like to help with any of the areas we talked about for parent help. But also, most importantly, gives you an opportunity to sort of share what your goals are for, like, what are you looking for your kid to get out of this experience with BAC, right? We want your input. What do you, those of you that are experienced BAC families, what is a positive of BAC? Those of you that are new, what's something you're hoping, besides obviously swimming related, what's other out of the pool stuff that you hope happen with your experience with BAC? We're going to use all that input to shape our new mission and value statements for this year. So this was the wrap up. Appreciate everyone for coming. They could chat with you guys missed the free stickers. Sorry to tell you. We'll have some for sale for cheap at the concessions at the starting the spectacular, just kind of like bumper sticker type stickers. And yeah, what's kind of that. I feel like, I'm sorry, I'm going to skip through this because I feel like I missed a slide talking about our club philosophy that might be in the new parent section. So let me just look through this again. Some of the stuff I'm thinking about might be in the new parent section. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. Hello. So that's all the all parent stuff. The second half, those of you who came in late, we did the second half first. We're going to do the first half second now. So the next stuff is the stuff that's aimed more at the new parents. If you got 10 minutes, I'm going to go through it pretty quick. Some of the first stuff is going to be pretty important, I think, for everybody. Once we get to this is how you use the website. If you're an experienced family, and I see some names on here, families that have been with BAC for 3-4 years, you know how to sign your kids up for meets. Once we get to that part, y'all can log off. But if you can stick with me for a few minutes, we'd appreciate it as we get the next one rolling here. So the new parent meeting. Share. Great. Let me get back to this. From the beginning, slideshow. All right, great. Hopefully that works. Great. So back, new parent meeting. This is some of the materials. So we talked about large team, but our groups are small and there's a lot of connections, right? I think this is actually in the original meeting where I did the schoolhouse analogy, right? We're also going to talk about our team philosophy, kind of some stuff about meets, and then a little bit for the website. Talked about team structure. Brief history back, if you aren't aware, we did talk about how we were formed in 1999 with 3 other Madison area clubs. A couple of years later, we added some East Side programming. It looked quite a bit different than our current East Side programming, because then in the early 2000s, there was a club that was based more out of Monona Grove, that was having some solvency issues and just some changeover and just some admin issues, and they weren't able to make a go of it anymore. We sort of we didn't take them over. It was much more of like they came to us with a merge opportunity, right? So that was how we sort of ended up with programming based out of Monona Grove and East. Something similar that happened about 7 or 8 years ago with a team that existed in Baraboo. We actually had Baraboo programming in the early 2000s. I cut my teeth coaching as a freshman in college. I would go and meet another coach at the Taco Bell over by the Menards on the far west side, and we'd hop in his VW Rabbit and barrel up Highway 12 and go coach in Baraboo, and then we'd come back. And a couple of years later, he was Katie Hoff's head coach and the national coach of the year for USA Swimming. So that was a pretty great experience. But then we had to drop that programming, and then years later we picked up another opportunity. And then over COVID, we were looking for any water we could get, and so we explored options at Sauk. They had historically had a program up there that folded when they lost a coach. This is the perils of being a small club, right? One or two things start to go south, and all of a sudden it spirals, and you're just not equipped to sort of absorb these negative occurrences, right? So the Sauk program that existed in the 2010s lost their coach, and so they went away for a number of years, and we were able to use some pool time, and then we were able to add a site last 2 years ago, and then last year we were able to grow it quite a bit, and now Derek's in the second year as the lead coach there at Sauk, and it's going wonderfully. We are the largest USA Swimming team in Wisconsin. That's affords us a lot of great opportunities. It also has some potential drawbacks, right? But one of the things we like to emphasize is that we're a big team. But we've always been a big team, and we are good at being a big team. I think if you took a bunch of coaches that had only ever coached a 120, 150 person team and put them on a 550 person team, they'd really struggle with it. But this is all we've ever known, and we're good at it. Humbly, of course. Our team philosophy: we want to create the best possible experience for our athletes. That can mean a lot of different things to different kids, and it can mean different things to different kids at different points in the process, right? When they're starting out, like, it just should be a fun activity that they're doing with friends, and they're getting better. And at some point, some of them are going to get to a degree more competitive, right? We hope they all kind of get more into meets as at 12 versus 7. It doesn't always happen, but some of them are going to get a little bit more into meets, and some of them are going to get a lot more into meets. So a best experience can be tied to performance, but it isn't always. Sometimes it's, man, we've had everything, right? We had a college girl train with us this summer, and her focus was just rehabbing from an injury, and she did her first racing in 18 months, right? She's a Big Ten swimmer, wasn't able to race at all the last year and a half. And so that was her best possible experience, was just getting healthy and getting back in shape where she could race, and she did it. That was fantastic. We really emphasize a long-term view and progressive development. That comes into play in a lot of kind of very macro ways in the way we run our practices, and also comes in play with some really micro ways. A macro example would be, we don't thump younger kids the way that some other clubs around the country or state or even around the area do. We don't see how much, like I got those kids to do 2,500 last week, I bet I can get $3,000 in this week. That is a viable way to get your younger kids a lot faster in the moment, but it is not a long-term development way. If you're doing, 90% of everything possible when you're 12, 13 years old, what are you going to do when you're 16 that's more than that, that's going to help you continue to progress, continue to improve, avoid the natural plateaus that sort of happen at that age group anyway, and keep you excited about the sport, right? Micro, it's a great example is dealing with like an injury or something like that, right? A kid is, I'm injured, I don't want to miss the glow meet. Well, guess what? There's going to be 20 more meets in your life that are comparable to this glow meet. When you're 22 and finishing college swimming, you're not going to go back and go, I really love my experience with the sport, but I really wish I'd pushed through my flu that I had at the A+ meet when I was 11, right? That just doesn't happen. With that, the progressive development, with the fictitious example, the college kids, that's not so fictitious for us. We send a dozen plus kids to swim off in college every year. And some of them, they're going to big time, power school, Big Ten and whatever D1 power conference programs. And other ones are going to places that, frankly, you haven't heard of, right? Every year we get a kid going to a new school, Occidental in California, Worcester in Pennsylvania, Babson in Boston, Northern University in Aberdeen, South Dakota. These are all places we've sent kids. Like we have kids right now active on those teams. And those are schools that like most of us probably aren't aware of. And that's fabulous. We also send kids off to big schools that aren't frankly good enough to swim there, and they swim club there instead, and they make a bunch of friends, and they're still involved with the sport, and they coach and they do whatever, and that's fabulous, right? Having these kids developing that lifelong passion for the sport is our main thing. We love it. We view sports as a great third space and a vehicle for life lessons, right? If you aren't familiar with the term, it loosely refers to, you got school, you got home, and every kid, the theory goes is that kids need at least a one third space to sort of develop socially and emotionally, right? There's just things you get from not school, not home that help you develop as a kid, right? You get that increased independence, you get that freedom, you get to make kind of those choices. Maybe you get to fail a little bit, maybe you get to screw up a little bit. But having a safe, monitored, intentional, I guess is a great word, third space is a great thing for kids in their development. We also view that sports is a great vehicle for life lessons. However, we recognize that it isn't automatically that, right? Like just being in a sport in and of itself does not teach your kid necessarily any, or isn't a great teacher of life lessons. We need to be intentional about that as well, right? We need to teach kids that you fail and you recover, right? Or you set a goal and you work really hard and you do it. Or you have someone you don't get along with very well that you have to learn to get along with because they're on your relay or in your group or lead your lane or whatever it might be. We love to have kids in groups for multiple years so that they start out and they're one of the worst kids or the youngest kids in the group and they got to deal with that experience. And then by the end, they're one of the oldest or strongest kids in the group and they learn to deal with that experience. These are all things that we try to work on in different ways at different points in the season, but kind of every day. And we like to have fun, right? If you didn't notice, the team shirt this year says nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. It's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote, but it's from Jimmy V's "Don't give up, don't ever give up" famous ESPY speech, and it really just, I mean, I picked it because it really sums up kind of my personal philosophy, right? If you, those of you that don't know me that well, pretty gregarious, pretty outgoing, pretty enthusiastic, and I really think that we want to transfer kind of that energy to the kids. Again, this is now getting into where if I see an experienced parent or two start to hop off, I'm not going to be too offended, but only got a few minutes left, so you can stick with it as well. USA Swimming meets have some fundamental ways that they are different from the summer league meets that most of you, and not everybody that's new is joining from a summer team, but the most of you are used to. Summer league meets have the same format meet to meet, right? All city event 13 is always the 9-10 girls 50 free. It was when I was a 9-10 boy, I guess, and it will be when my kids are swimming and probably when my grandkids are swimming. USA Swimming meets every meet event 13. Event 13 might not be the same event at any single meet of the 20 we go to this year, right? There's going to be a varied events and a varied format at every meet. Some of those meets are single day. Some of those meets are multi-day. Most often it's multi-session, right? With some age groups in the morning, some age groups in the afternoon. We are hosting several 3-session meets this year because we don't want you to be there all day, right? Like if your kid has the option of playing a sport where their basketball game takes an hour and a half from soup to nuts, and our swim meets take 4.5 hours with warm-ups, that sucks, right? Like that's a worse option. So we are not going to do that. There's actually a USA Swimming rule that meets cannot be longer than 4 hours. And too many of the teams around just everywhere, really, it's not even a Wisconsin thing or a local thing. Too many of them interpret that as 4 hours is how long we should aim to get these meets to be, right? And that's just flawed. So we're a big club with a lot of workers. So we're going to do several shorter session meets, 2.5 hour sessions instead of 3.5, 4 hour sessions. The deadline for summer meets is usually the week of the meet, right? You can show up Thursday and sign up, or even Friday and sign up for a Saturday meet. Ours are usually 2 to 3 weeks out. Some of them are even further. And if you try to get into a meet at the last minute, it's not going to work. Most of the summer league meets are 2 or 3 team duels. Most of ours are invites with multiple teams. 2 or 3 teams duels. Teams are usually assigned. Parkrest has the even lanes and Cross Plains Stingrays has the odd lanes. I know I'm mixing groups, but that's just trying to be inclusive. Ours, they're mostly seated like an all city or like a conference meet would be, where they're seated by times. For summer league meets, team score usually takes precedence for USA Swimming meets. There are only a few meets every year where we're really even paying attention to team score. that could be a negative, right? Because it's fun to all be pulling together for a common team goal. But there's also a lot of positives to that. You're really never going to hear a BAC coach, very rarely, if ever, tell your swimmer that like the team needs them to do a certain event at a meet, right? We will encourage them to do different events. We certainly don't want them doing the 50 free every single weekend that they do a meet. But we're never going to be like, I know you don't like the 100 breaststroke, but the team needs you in this. That's a high school thing. That's a summer league thing. We might put you in the 100 breaststroke because you need it, but it's not going to be based on what the team needs. Maybe a relay leg once in a while, but that doesn't really happen. It's more about what's the best possible lineup for your swimmer, and that might take a bunch of factors into account. All right, website tour. So I'm gonna let me just circle through the rest of this PowerPoint, and then I'll do the website tour at the end. We talked already about all the things that it does, but I'll tell you how to sign up. So I'll show you the individual account, how to access that. I'll show you a general tour, show you how to sign up for meets. We talked a lot about communication. One thing especially that we didn't mention on the other slide, but that new parents can do is to ask another parent, right? A lot of you, like I said, come from summer teams, Tri-County or All-City, and you know somebody else on the team. If you have a question, you can ask them, get the parent perspective. Thanks for coming. Perfect. Okay, so there wasn't really anything else on there. I'll stop share. Let me share this here. So if you weren't aware, let me make sure I got the right. Yeah. If you weren't aware, my awesome daughter Lily is on the team this year. My daughter Lily is on BAC for the first time ever, and I'm super excited and super pumped. But that means I can show you what everything looks like from a parent perspective rather than like my normal account logs me into an admin thing, right? So one of the worst things about Team Unify at the moment, a very minor nitpicky thing about Team Unify right now is when you log in, it takes you to kind of this screen where really this is what you want, right? This is our beautiful front page where we're going to have a bunch of fun pictures updated and all the buttons and all the style and our sponsors and everything. But when you log into your account, the first thing it takes you to isn't the aesthetic front page. It's the like back end page, right? Where you kind of have this stuff. So what you can do is you can go to team, view my team website there, and that'll take you to some other stuff. Or if you want to just navigate it from here, that's fine. So my account, this is where you have kind of the information. The most important thing here, so here you'll see your account login email. So this is the email account we use to log in, or sorry, to create the login. And this is what we use to log in to set our kids up and stuff like that. Then we have some alternate emails here. That's where you would put, so I'm going to stop the share for a second. That's where you would put the spouses or an ex or whatever your family situation is, right? Another adult that wants to get these emails, or especially if you have older kids, that would be a great place. You know, if you have kids that check email through school or whatever else, put their thing down. That way, when John sends the West Side Trophy group email, or maybe I should pick an older group, when Jay sends a junior premier email, it goes in their inbox as well, and they can be responsible for the information that's being conveyed that week. Great. Let me see here. We'll also, oh, that's the wrong, sorry about this. Hold on, I did the wrong share. That's my admin account. There we go. All right. There's also some other information that's when you log into your account, that's where you can check billing. That's where you can check just your USA registration, all sorts of other information, stuff like that. If you have any questions about billing stuff, if I didn't mention this already, Sherry's the one to go to. Here's your general tour. These, the location tabs, other than some of the practice calendars that are here, like on the sock, oh, it's not updated at the moment. These tabs are mostly pretty static. This is the information before each session, right? Once winter gets closer, we'll have winter stuff pasted there. So this is a lot of like information when you're looking to join the team. Once you're on the team, we should probably put these as less prominent ones. Here's an important one, practice calendar right now. It's where you'll see the west side and the east side practice calendars. The Baraboo and Sauk ones are usually under the tab, but I don't know if they're active at the moment. Emails and docs, we talked a lot about this. This is where we post all of the most important stuff that went out. There's also old stuff just sort of archived there if you're ever curious and you want to read, if there's something catches your eye, right? You might want to read through that and take a look. Up here, I mentioned coaches and board of directors. This is where you'll see bios. I think we have most of the new coaches as I scroll down. Yep, we have most of the new coaches on here, but we don't have their pictures or their bios posted yet, but you do have contact information, all of them. And you can see more information about kind of who works with your kids. Meets. This is where you'll go to sign up potentially for meets. We'll talk about that in a second. BAC hosted meets. The last meet we hosted was that we posted on here was in late January as our groundhog. We'll get this updated with our fall October spectacular pretty soon. This is a static page that we'll probably take down pretty soon. Sponsors. This is last year's sponsor page. We'll get up there. Our 23 single age state. We just added this today. This is a big meet that we host with 700 plus kids from 45 plus teams all around the state at Verona, and it's going to be a huge deal. So we'll have more information there. Signing up for meets. So, sorry, under the meets tab, you can see here, I got to take that down, but the tentative short course yard meet schedule, it says very tentative on here. I got to update that. That's fine now. New people, we emphasize some of this stuff on the slide, but this is some frequently asked questions about USA meets. That is worth your time if you haven't read it already. Here's the meet schedule. The blue meets are the meets we host. As you can see here, there's a BAC mystery meet that we already kind of hyped up that'll be happening in January. If you weren't aware, nobody goes to all these meets. For example, look, here an upcoming weekend in November, we have 2 meets the same weekend. You can't be in 2 places at once. Different meets for different populations. Signing up for meets, you can go from here, or you can go from the homepage down, scroll down to team events. We don't have any real meets posted yet. I did post this fake meet. So usually what you'll see is you'll see the date, and you'll see a little bit more fleshed out of a description here. Right now, it's just an attend decline button. So here we have my 1 member. I only have 1 member on under my account. Those of you with multiple kids will have them listed here. You can see Lily is currently undeclared. If I know she is not going to attend fake meet and I don't want to get 2 or 3 extra emails, as soon as this gets published, I can click this. No thanks, Lily will not attend the meet. Okay. If she does want to attend, or you can just leave it and not deal with it. If she does want to attend the meet, I can click this. There's a section here, notes, where you could put something that Lily has to leave so she can't be on the last relay, or Lily is really nervous about relays and doesn't want to do it, or whatever you want to put. I would advise, if you ever have anything that's worth putting in the notes section, that you also email your lead coach a note. The way that these reports come to us on the admin side is this is easy to miss. So it's a great feature, but it's easy to miss. So I would just do it. Here are the events available for Lily. This is the thing that is most confusing for new families. She is 6. So you'll see she is eligible for a bunch of 8 and under events that for this fake meet are on day 1, session 1 up here. This is a 1-day meet. So this would be like Saturday morning. She's also eligible for 10 and under events that are also listed here. She is also eligible for open events. So that's what's listed. This meet also has 11-12 events. She is not an 11-12, so she can't do those. This meet might also have 13-14 events, or 13 and over events, or 9 through 12 events, or any number of different age group events that she is not eligible for, so they don't show up. So this is what she's eligible for. Most of the time, the word open means big kid, right? She doesn't want to do these events as a 6-year-old. So most of the time, open technically means open to any age group, but like the way that this meet, for example, is set up is open is there's no 13-14 events, there's no 15-18 events. So open is sort of a placeholder for all of our older athletes. But there are times maybe when you want a younger athlete to do it. Maybe you can only attend that afternoon session and your 10-year-old is just fine doing the 50 free, the 100 breast, and the 200 free. Maybe you have 2 siblings and one of them's 13 and this is the only thing they can do and you don't want to be there all day and you're going to force your 9-year-old to be there, but they're only going to do the 50 free. This is totally fine. Same thing with 10 under events. Maybe my Lillian is ready to try, especially later in the year, she wants to do the 25 free. But maybe she really loves breaststroke, so she's going to try the 50 breaststroke because maybe she's ready for that, right? Maybe not this first meet of the year, but eventually. So you can pick any of those. Right now, Lily's never done a meet, so she has MT listed for everything here. So then her entry time is going to be NT. Later on, what's going to show up here is 36:12 because that's her best 25 free from the Spooktacular, and then that'll go in as her entry time. For this meet, just for illustration purposes, I put in a time standard for 2 events, for the 25 fly and for the 50 free. Lily does not have those time standards, so they are red events that she is not qualified for. That's different than, say, the 11-12 events that don't even show up. These are ones that show up as something she can theoretically do, but that she cannot. Once in a while, there's maybe going to be a red event that's a mistake. So you can, if you ever see that and you're wondering why it's red, you can email your lead coach. You can also notice here that it says IE equals 4. That's the max entries, individual entries 4, relay entries 1, combo 5. Again, sometimes that might get screwed up. So if you have any questions, you can reach out. That's the end of the tour. But so that's the end of the share. Meets are a lot if you're a new family, right? That's a lot of information and a lot of like, well, sometimes it's this and sometimes it's that. And the best way to do it is to just take it 1 meet at a time. When we put the meet up, like we'll put up the Spooktacular, hopefully next week, we'll send out an email. Hey, everybody, the Spooktacular's up. You can look at it. You can try to sign up. You can send a lead coach any information. They'll also send something with more information to you. Hey, junior kids, this is our expectation for Spooktacular. Hey, little badgers, this is our expectation. And they're going to be different for different groups. Take it 1 meet at a time. Ask a lot of questions. It's a lot to try to explain at once. We'll figure it out. All right. So time to put questions in the chat. I didn't see any. Okay. Thank you. No questions. So you can put questions in the chat, or if anybody wants to unmute themselves, now would be a fine time I'm going to just adjust the view here. Any questions? Yeah.
This is Julian's mom.
Yeah. How's it going?
Hi. We're all 3 of us are in the room.
Lovely.
Is what you just showed is you saying, I'd swim that, I'd swim that, I'd swim that, and then the coaches decide which things you swim?
Great point. So so we want the kids to be, and we'll send something out about this when we finally publish Spook. We don't want mom or dad or a parent or whomever to just go in and pick events without talking to the kids. The ideal situation, regardless of the age of your swimmer, is that they are sitting there with you and doing it. They cannot log in themselves with their email address and pick events. So the idea is, and for those of you that listening home, Julian is the teenage, Julian is what? He's a senior at East, whatever. He's a bit old boy, right? So Julian is perfectly capable of deciding what events he wants to swim. So mom or dad shouldn't pick for him, but mom and dad might have to log in and then say, here, pick your events. My daughter, Lily, I could talk to her and just say, hey, Lily, what events do you want to do? But what I'd really like everybody to do is sit down and get the computer in front of them and go, all right, Lily, here's the events you can do. Do you want to try backstroke? Do you want to try 25? That means 1 length, that kind of thing. Coaches ultimately have the authority of overriding events. New kids, Spooktacular, we're not going to override the events they're selected. We're going to let them do it. But we get to the 3rd meet and Johnny's doing the 50 free for the 3rd time. And he's never tried anything else. We're going to have a conversation with Johnny at practice and say, hey, I want you to try this event. Or we're going to go in and change it and email him. What we're really hardly ever going to do, and if we do, it's going to be a mistake, is you're not going to show up at the meet with a surprise that we changed all of your events and you didn't know it, right? So anytime that a coach overrides an event selection, we should be communicating that proactively to you by around the deadline of the meet, well before the meet. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Mostly. So he swam for East, he swam for Goodman, and that's a 2 individual, 2 relay situation. Is that the same here?